Hello and welcome to Look North, the main news from around Yorkshire today. A murder investigation's been launched in Huddersfield after a man was stabbed to death in the street. And they call it the Western. Yorkshire Sculpture Park gets a new multi-million-pound visitor centre. Good afternoon. Police have started a murder investigation after a man was stabbed to death in Huddersfield. It happened on New Hay Road in the early hours of this morning, where there's still a police cordon. Our reporter Charles Heslett has just sent this report from the scene.
A pool of blood outside a stone terrace house in Huddersfield. This was where officers were called to reports of a stabbing in the early hours of today. There they found a man slumped and unconscious. He was taken to hospital, but despite the best efforts of medics, he died as a result of his injuries. West Yorkshire Police said there have been no arrests in connection with the killing. Forensic officers wearing white protective suits have been on the scene this morning, and uniformed officers remain on the site. One resident said the area was normally very peaceful. She was shocked to find out what had happened just yards from her front door.
Police say the cordon will remain in place for most of the day. They're also asking for anyone who saw what happened here to get in touch. Charles Heslett, BBC Look North, Huddersfield.
And two men have been arrested on suspicion of terror offences. One arrest took place in Doncaster and it was carried out by the West Midlands Counter-Terrorism Unit with the support of South Yorkshire Police. A 36-year-old man from Birmingham and a 35-year-old man from Doncaster were both arrested on suspicion of conspiracy to distribute terrorist publications. The jury in the trial of Hillsborough match commander David Duckenfield has retired to consider its verdicts for a second day. Duckenfield, who's 74, denies the gross negligence manslaughter of 95 Liverpool fans at the 1989 FA Cup semi-final. Former Sheffield Wednesday club secretary Graham Mackrell denies failing to discharge his duty under the Health and Safety at Work Act. A new three-part documentary series about Peter Sutcliffe, otherwise known as the Yorkshire Ripper, will investigate whether a culture of sexism in the 1970s may have helped him to evade justice. Police interviewed the serial killer 9 times before he was eventually arrested and charged. Jamie Coulson reports.
In 1981, Peter Sutcliffe was convicted of murdering 13 women and attempting to kill 7 others. It was only after an intense 6-year manhunt that the lorry driver from Bradford, who was nicknamed the Yorkshire Ripper, was finally brought to justice.
A bad man's a bad man, but a bad woman's a bad woman.
Tonight, a new 3-part documentary series questions whether attitudes at the time towards women, and in particular towards prostitutes, influenced the investigation and delayed his capture. Wilma McCann, a lead sex worker, was Sutcliffe's first victim. At the time, her son Richard was just 5 years old.
All I can remember was this feeling from many sources, neighbours, children at school saying, "Is it true your mum was a prostitute?" And that word, I had to grow up really quickly, and it obviously had a negative impact on me.
The way some of the victims are talked about is really, really shocking. And apart from it being shocking and distasteful, there were implications for the investigation because it shaped how the police saw the crimes and what they were looking for, basically.
Most of his victims have been of somewhat doubtful moral character.
As well as speaking to victims and their families, the BBC 4 series will also hear from police officers and journalists to look at the appalling story through contemporary eyes. Jamie Coulson, BBC Look North.
Parents are being urged to attend a meeting about proposed changes and possible strikes at a school in Sheffield. The school's facing funding shortages. It's planning to close its 6th form to save money, and the National Education Union says there's also the chance that 15 teaching staff will be made redundant. A public meeting will take place tonight, where the possibility of strikes will be discussed. A patient support group in Sheffield has found that transgender people are being put at risk because of the length of time they're having to wait for help. An investigation by Health Watch Sheffield also found people had a fear of accessing services at gender identity clinics, and some had bought treatments online without medical supervision. A number of recommendations have been made to improve the service. Well, a spokesman from NHS Sheffield Central Clinical Commissioning Group, who pay for the service, says they're looking at the suggestions made in the report and will work with those involved to see how they can make improvements. Now, since it opened in 1977, the Yorkshire Sculpture Park has slowly become one of the most popular attractions in Yorkshire. But it's in the last 5 years that it's really taken off. Visitor numbers have grown by 65% and the facilities are feeling the strain. That's why a new visitor centre is opening on Saturday. It has an additional restaurant, shop and gallery. But how do you build something worthy of such a special place? Kathy Killick has been finding out.
When you're competing with the gorgeous Yorkshire landscape and some of the finest sculpture in the world, it must be daunting to plan a new building from scratch. But that was the task facing the architects of the Weston, the park's new visitor centre.
To be honest, it's a bit of a dream commission because the Sculpture Park has a history of commissioning fine buildings and they're enjoyed by tens of thousands of people. So for us, it was the most exciting commission we had ever received. And such an opportunity to do something that isn't just a piece of architecture but also a kind of piece of sculpture in the landscape.
The centre is on the site of an old quarry and was designed to sit low, becoming part of the land. It's made from concrete pigmented with the local stone.
The building also houses this new gallery, and the walls are so thick it needs neither heating nor air conditioning, which is good for the artwork and the environment.
The current work on show is inspired by the popularity of wrestling among Indian farmers. Instructions encourage visitors to adopt the traditional wrestling poses while thinking of the farmers' struggles.
The Sculpture Park has been a place for 2 generations of people since 1977, people who've really taken it into their hearts. And we really wanted this gallery to be a space where people could connect with sculpture, connect with the making of sculpture, the kind of physical nature of sculpture, and that's what we're going to do in the programming here.
As well as feeding your intellect, a cool new cafe can feed your stomach too. You'll find it on the eastern edge of the park. It's open on Saturday. Kathy Killick, BBC Look North at the Yorkshire Sculpture Park.
And I wonder what the weather's going to be like. If you're fancying a trip to the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, well, there's only one man to tell us. Here he is, Paul.
Very
nice.
It's looking pretty good, although I think Easter holidays begins next week for many, and the weather will take a turn for the worse. But in the short term, it's looking pretty good. We're all seeing a bit of sunshine now, and that's the way of it really for the rest of the week. So this afternoon, dry with some sunshine, and high pressure is definitely in charge of our weather, and it will remain in charge for the week. Thursday, Friday, temperatures up to around about 16 degrees. There's the latest satellite picture then. There are areas of cloud around, especially across southern parts of our region, but that will continue to filter away southward. So it's a straightforward forecast, dry and bright with some sunshine. There'll just be a light or moderate westerly wind, and we'll see temperatures coming in at around about 12 Celsius. That's 54 Fahrenheit. OK, through this evening and overnight, that cloud will come and go. Won't be as cold as last night. We did have an air frost in places. A ground frost tonight, I feel, in the countryside with lows around 3 Celsius. That's 37 Fahrenheit. Right, for tomorrow, it's not looking a bad day. We'll see partly cloudy skies. All parts will be dry with a good deal of sunshine. The best of the sunshine probably across northern and eastern areas, and with just a light breeze, it's going to feel pretty good. Top temperatures reaching 13 or 14 degrees Celsius. 14 Celsius is 57 Fahrenheit. Further ahead then, Thursday looks pretty good, as does Friday, with temperatures around 15 and 16. Bit of a damp start Saturday morning, but it will clear up. A cooler weekend, but once that patchy rain Saturday morning clears, it should be mostly fine. Ian, that's the forecast.
Thank you very much, as always, Paul. Thank you. That's it. Join us again then at 6:30. Good afternoon from us both. Bye-bye.